Hello everyone, I'm Brian, welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
So Sadhguru, let's take on that. So let me ask you that. I'll be the simple person. I don't want any passion in my life. I don't want
No,
any…
no.
No, I'm just saying.
Take out the simple. Because I'm saying, having an ambition and passion is simplistic. I am not talking about you becoming a simple person. In fact, you become a limitless human being because you have not fixed anything for yourself. If you are joyful, have you noticed this by yourself? On a certain day when you're very happy, are you willing to do more things? Or on a certain day when you're a little depressed, are you willing to do more things? Please tell me. So lot of idiots on the planet are going about spreading, oh, if I am happy right here, I will not do anything. Well, your experience clearly tells you only when you're happy you're willing to do whatever is needed, isn't it? You're willing to bend backwards, even to reach out to somebody on the street. But when you're little miserable, you are nasty to everything around you, not willing to do anything, you would like to just lie down and sleep, isn't it so? So where does this thing come from, that if I am joyful and I'm in a very dynamic state of intelligence and physicality, that I will become a simple person? No.
The question has to be asked that, okay, I don't have to have passion at this moment or any ambition. I just want to live my life at my fullest. Full-on happiness, joyful, and I just want to live at the fullest of my potential. How can I do it? What's the step will be?
You're getting to the point. See, most fundamental thing that needs to change in our understanding of this is, when you say full-on experience of life, first thing is to understand that experience of life, no matter what is the experience, of pleasantness or unpleasantness or agony or ecstasy, only happens from within us, isn't it? So,
I hope he gives an example on that, because a lot of people will just say yes because they don't want to look like fools. They don't want to ask questions to a degree. You hear them asking questions, but these are just follow-up questions. I don't know how to explain it. Like, because they don't want to keep staying on the same subject matter, they want to keep adding on or going to a different question instead of staying on the same question and getting a deeper understanding of it. I genuinely do hope they understand what he means by this. A lot of people will say yes. I think I said this maybe in the first video, but I think a lot of people will just say yes just to act like they know.
if you take charge of this is what is creating, this is an experience creating machine. Everything you look at it, oh, you love this person, you hate this person, you're angry with this person, you like this person, you dislike this person, everything is happening from within you, isn't it? Do you know that people who you think you cannot stand, somebody thinks he is the most wonderful person?
Good.
Yes or no?
That's like the example I give about how whenever, you
So, this
sorry, must have hit the example I give, like when you hate someone but someone else likes them, or whenever someone says something you get super offensive but someone else doesn't get offended at all. It's like this is a direct proof of the fact that the experience that you feel, regardless of the external factors within you, because that word was said, but you are the only one that's offended. Everyone else is not. Why is that? Why is it only happening in you? Sure, it may the words may have been directed at you. Maybe the words are directed to your kind of people, or your kind of hairstyle, or your kind of fashion. But that goes to prove that it's still within you, though, that this experience is happening, and this is your body, and you should have control over it.
experience is created from within you, no matter what is the nature of your experience. If you take charge of this one thing, that your experience is determined by you and nobody else but you. If this one thing happens, then don't worry, rest will happen. To what extent? To the extent to the fullest extent possible that our intelligence, our capability and the times in which we exist, this is very important. People think they are doing everything by themselves. No, the times in which we exist is important. Depending upon… the time should allow us, right? Suppose you came here 1,000 years ago and you talk about artificial intelligence, they would bury you. Yes or no? So, it is the times. So, the time should be conducive that it allows us. With all this, in your life, if you do not do what you cannot do, it's not an issue. But in your life, if you do not do what you can do, you're a disaster, isn't it? I am only talking about avoiding this disaster because most people have become this disaster because they have their own passion, their own ambition, their own mission and their own moods going up and down, all kinds of things. If you did not have all these things, you would do everything you can do, isn't it? In your life, this much must happen. Everything that you can do must happen. What you cannot do anyway doesn't happen, what to do?
I'm reading the thing.
So, changing topics a little bit, since this auditorium is full of Indian expats, so one of the questions that we wanted to ask is, how do you recommend that we, the Indian youth here in the US, start thinking about contributing back to India while they are living their American dream? Because these two pursuits are very diverse and they might not coincide.
These two nations that you're mentioning, in many ways, in culture, in geography, in economics, are at two different spheres altogether. One is a new nation, hardly 200 years old, little more than 200 years. Existence of United States of America, maybe 200 years old since independence, but really it is only 100 years or 120 years where really in a focused way they started building this nation. When you…
Real quick, I'm wondering, that's interesting actually, I never thought about that. Or, yes, maybe we won independence of Britain back in… is it not 1776, is it 1776? I think so. Look, I'm not a history buff, but I love history too. I try not to… 1496, is that when Columbus discovered the ocean blue? That's what I'm not trying to get confused by. Anyways, yeah, 1776. So I'm wondering, that's when we gained the independence from Britain, but it's not when the United States is necessarily the United States. It's still a very young country. It was a bit different back in the day. Nonetheless, it was still… I don't wonder if it was still considered the United States. So anyways, I guess what Sadhguru is talking about here was once the United States as a whole became the way it is, as the federal government having authority over, well, some authority over the states. Because I think the states kind of has freedom to do what it needs, the freedom to create its own laws within its own state. So that's kind of the confusing thing about the United States, is that when you go to different states, the laws are a bit different. Whereas there's also the federal government, which also has laws which applies to universally through all states, I believe it does. But it's generally the federal government tries to stay out of the state's way, because it's kind of like, imagine you know, your neighbor that's like 6 kilometers away or 6 miles away trying to impose a law on your house, thinking he knows how to run your house, but in reality people in your house knows what needs to be done in your house, because it's much closer to the source, I guess you could say. Like, your neighbor has better understanding what needs to be done to your house than someone that's like that far away. So the further away from the source, the more difficult it is to really govern or know what's needed. And source being, of course, like either the house, the city, the village, the county, the state, you know, the region, versus, say, like the federal government, or even as big as the state itself if you're talking about just towns. So we have mayors and stuff too. So that's interesting. I never thought about it that way per se. 1776 was the founding of the nation supposedly, but it wasn't quite as big as it was now. And I think things have changed since 1776. I'm sure, and I guess that's what he's pointing out here. 100 to 120 years ago.
Where really in a focused way they started building this nation. When you talk about India, for us, recent times means 5,000 years. In India, people in their conversations, they say, you know what happened recently in our history? They're talking about 2,000–3,000 years. So these are completely two different ways of looking at it.
And real quick, I remember saying India has a much longer history than America. Being a very young country. Someone pointed out that India was also young. I was like, yes and no, actually. And they're not wrong. India finally got its independence from Britain relatively younger than America. But India itself was, I'd say, I wouldn't say it was India per se, because I'm not sure. Again, not sure of the history, but it was organized in some fashion, I'm sure. But I don't know if it was completely all of India before British got there, or you guys know better than I do. Was it completely all of India, or was it a certain part? But I'm sure it was a major part of India before when the British left, and then certain segments probably, I think, got kind of, I won't say molded in, but got included into India as well. Let me know. But anyways, the sheer fact that India was still in a sense a country, I guess, prior to the British being there. So India is still significantly older than America, and also has quite the history, of course, before even America was a state. So the person was right that India is young in a sense, but also it's ancient in another sense, that it may not be all of India that was perhaps ancient in a sense. Like, hopefully you get what I'm saying. Like what India is now, prior to the Britain, probably wasn't all of India at the time, but it was probably a little bit smaller, and included some others after the independence, I believe. I don't know. Let me know. Don't know too much, but I do remember certain things like that, but not completely.
There is immense value to both, immense. Because of the newness of their existence. The American people, I'm not talking today, when they came here and they trying to figure out in a new land what to do, they did whatever was needed for their given situation for them to go on. Where individual aspiration was the main thing. Nobody thought of a nation when they came here. They were only thinking of their own ranch or whatever they call it, a piece of land. They thought they have broken away from the nation of being England or Scotland or Ireland or maybe even Germany and France and wherever they came from. But largely these three nations probably to begin with. They really thought they have broken away from the bondage of nationhood. That's what the debate is still going on about the right to bear arms, because people did not think they're going to make one more nation which is so tight like England of that time. They thought they're just going to live here free. But slowly, for practical reasons, one understands, without organization, individual enterprise slowly will work against each other. If we don't have a war, we will have a family feud. Family feuds in this country were like wars, isn't it? It went on and on for generations. Because it is the same thing. Somewhere you have to fix the boundary. Still human beings have not come to a place where in this world we can simply live without a boundary. We've not come to that place. At least those who claim they're educated, at least in your minds and hearts, you must remove the boundaries. Geographically, still there are boundaries. We cannot remove those boundaries. If you suddenly remove those boundaries, there will be a total upheaval of things. So having said that, India as a land is like running into thousands of years, which gives people a sense of timeless existence, where our way of doing things have always been never about individual aspiration, simply what is inclusive and happening, because always We remember, in many Indian homes, this is very hard for American people to understand. In Indian homes, many of them have kept records of 60, 70 generations of people, their names. My grandfather's name, 60 generations ago, 70 generations ago, they got names written down in the books. So, their sense of existence is very different, which is changing dramatically now. As a part of this Youth and Truth, I've been going to all these universities. Recently, when I was in Delhi 5 days ago, they were asking me, Sadhguru, when you were a youth, how things were, what were you thinking? And today, how the youth are. What do you think is the difference?
Real quick, and if you guys have that book, that'd be pretty freaking interesting. I mean, that's pretty cool, honestly, to have just a history. I guess it would be your I guess your father's lineage from your father's side. I do wonder if some also has it on their mother's side. That'd be freaking pretty cool too. And I'm just wondering if any of y'all have that.
I said one stark difference I see is, we were always thinking of a revolution. How to change this country, how to do this, how to do that. Today you go into the university, everybody is only talking about individual aspiration. Nobody is talking about the larger context of what it is. This is a consequence of a certain level of economic development. When the country was at a certain status of development, when I say certain status of development, in 1947, when the British left India, the average life expectancy of an Indian was 28 years. Today, it is 69.7 years or nearly 70 years. This is a huge change. When average life expectancy was 28 years, naturally we were thinking revolution, how to change this. Something needs to happen dramatic.
I remember him talking about that story about there was a group of people that he ended up, I believe, joining with, and it was like, it's about the revolution.
Otherwise it's not going to change. But today, the present youth are thinking of individual aspiration. So people look at this as, oh, is this not a bad thing? I said, no, it's a very good thing. Because if all individuals in a country are doing well, the damn country is doing well, isn't it? Hello?
I guess it might be very hard to do, say, all individuals. To say majority of… You have to be a pretty big majority, though. You can't say 51%. That is a majority. But perhaps like 80 to 90% is a more realistic point of view, because to have everyone… Dude, you're doing better than good. To have everyone doing good, that's like perfection. That's impossible. Maybe. I don't know if it's impossible, but I mean, smaller the country, the smaller the population, the easier it can be. To have a country like as big as United States, India, China, Russia, I don't know what other countries are as big as those, to have everyone in those things, that's impossible.
So, these are two different approaches. What America thought of individual enterprise and, individual aspiration, probably in 50s and 60s, post-World War II, now India is beginning to think in early 21st century. This is a natural consequence. This is one thing. This is one thing which will be troublesome for nations which develop in a big way without individual aspirations being accommodated. So nations which developed rapidly, in a short span of time, using a stick. Stick works very well when people are poor. The moment they do well, if you use a stick, they will turn back and bite you. Yes, this is the nature of a human being. When he is desperate, he understands a stick will drive all of us in one direction and something will happen. If you all scramble in one direction, something good will happen to me also. But once that scramble is over, then I'm thinking of my own individual aspiration. Now the trouble comes. That trouble is coming wherever development happened too rapidly because of a forceful way of doing things. This is the good thing about India. Professor Krishnan said that it's a chaos. Well, it is a chaos only for an external viewer who doesn't understand our existence. we would be fully… we would get thoroughly bored with too much order. We like that. We're driving on the street, suddenly an elephant comes. Really. We like that. If suppose an elephant came on an American interstate, oh, the whole nation will scream, how can this happen? An elephant came on the street. We are very excited, we'll pull out our cell phones, take pictures and share with everybody. I saw an elephant on the road today.
I think America would be excited about that too. Don't get me wrong, there'll be some people that'll be mad because they gotta get somewhere. It's like, what the heck is going on here? Why is this elephant doing there? Yeah, I think majority of people who are not in a rush obviously will… Maybe that's it. Maybe not a lot of people in India is not in a rush, I don't know. But I would say if you're in a rush, obviously an elephant on the road is terrible. But if you're not in a rush, you'd be like, I don't have to be anywhere, so this is pretty cool. This is weird. Let me get my 15 minutes of fame on the internet.
All right? So it's a… See, there are two kinds of orders. You can have a manicured garden and it looks like spick and span, everything is the way you want it. And you can have a forest where nothing seems to be in order. But if you take away your hand off the manicured garden for just 3 months, it will be nonsense. But forest, for million years it's existed, obviously it's a better order. It is just that to live in the forest, you need different kinds of skills. Yes. Well, once in a way you get eaten by a tiger, but you travel all the way to Africa or India to see a lion or a tiger. So when you got eaten, you definitely… you did not enjoy the wildlife, but you saw it for sure.
You saw it for sure.
Thank you. We'd now like to open it up to audience questions.
Okay, I'm gonna pause right here actually, and I will save the last segment for audience questions. So let's see. So I was talking about the orders of the two different countries. It's the last bit, and yeah, obviously, again, it's two different cultures, and culture is really the main thing, honestly. But I don't really have too much else to say other than, I mean, I didn't really say much anyway, at least during that last part, just because I don't really have much of experience. He was explaining how there are two different orders. Interesting that he was saying the country, America, was in terms of the individual, and then India is now doing that. And I get it. Obviously when individual aspirations cannot be, how do I say, cannot be fulfilled, a group must enable that fulfillment of individual aspirations, because an individual cannot grow on its own unless the, how do you say, the environment permits it. So there was a big group push in India to permit individual growth, kind of like what he's talking about there, although it's a weird analogy about, whipping or sticks or something like that, and everyone's pushing the same direction for this revolution. Then once the revolution happens, now individual growths can happen, and that's what's happening in India. And he's talking about the not the revolution, but the growth if it happens too fast. So that is very interesting. I mean, America's growth happened really quickly. Again, according to Sadhguru, 120 years, but 200 to 120 is still relatively young for a country. And mind you, even if you go back to the earliest landings of, I believe, Western Europeans in here, it's still relatively young, even if you include those years, which would… Well, I don't know. Is it 1496 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue? But I don't think they established colonies here. They established trade for sure, thinking it was Indians, the Asian Indians, as opposed to Western Indians. That's American Indians. There we go. And then I don't know when they established. Still, say you add maybe another 200 years to that, so about 400 to 500 years old now. If you were just to include when Western Europeans landed here, or maybe settled some settlements here. It's still very young, even if you include those. But yeah, there was a rapid development in the United States, and it can be disastrous. And well, I mean, I wouldn't say I don't think that's what happened to the United States. I think it's just because I say this, there's no struggle in the United States. People don't have what Jordan Peterson would say, a dragon to slay. So they're trying to find that dragon to slay. So you have this very easy, comfy life in America. I'm not saying that, what do you call it? It's a great life, but it's easy, relatively speaking, especially from where I come from. You have so many options, so many opportunities in America, and just Americans don't, I guess, see that when it's right in front of their face, just because that's the norm. I mean, what you grow up with, what you see around you, becomes what is considered to be normal to you, whether that's poor or rich. And a lot of these people who are looking for these dragons to slay, most of them are the middle upper class to the rich people, because they have it easier than the rest of us, than the rest of the people. And social justice is an easy dragon to slay, because there's injustice in the world, and let's just march in the street and say social justice, not knowing what the dragon is. It's this invisible dragon that we have to slay, and let's do it. And they point to all these things and not realizing they're missing the facts. It's really, I don't know, in some sense delusional, because they see certain things as dragons. In reality, they're not dragons. I'm being vague here, so I don't want to get too precise in that. Whereas, say, the poor and middle to middle lower class, they have a dragon to slay for the most part. There are still some peoples in this categories are also in the same category as the rich people, where they see what because it's not easy for them, that it must be something external causing this problem. Not the fact that it could be something cultural within them, something of their own choosing and doing that's the problem, but something has got to be external. I'm not doing anything wrong. Everything else around me is forcing me to be the way I am, and it's not me. So there's also the not taking responsibility part. Way off topic. Let's go ahead and just end this video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, the sound down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid. I am fumbling today.